The elevator ghost. The Sterling Heights apartments had always looked older than they really were. Evelyn Carter noticed it every night as she passed through the lobby to start her shift on the 17th floor. The paint was new, the marble floor polished, but something about the building seemed permanently dim, as if the air remembered shadows even after the lights were replaced. She was the night assistant for a tech firm that rented 2 floors near the top. The job was quiet, mostly answering late calls and checking deliveries. The only thing that ever made her uneasy was the elevator. It was an antique cage model retrofitted with glass panels and a mechanical voice that greeted passengers with a static-filled "going up." Most nights she rode alone, feeling the hum of cables like a heartbeat through the metal railing. That evening, rain blurred the glass doors of the lobby. The guard, Daniel Reeves, waved from his booth. He'd started only a week earlier but already joked about the elevator's quirks. "If it stalls again, just press 17 twice," he said. "Maintenance says it confuses the system into moving." Evelyn smiled faintly and stepped inside. The doors slid shut with a sigh. The lights flickered for a breath. The reflection in the mirror panel behind her didn't move with her. She turned, only her bag swinging, nothing else. The display blinked. L, 2, 9, 13, 17, 1. The numbers jumped, skipping floors. A whisper slipped through the speaker. 17 is waiting. She froze. The mechanical voice had never said that before. When the doors opened, the hallway was darker than usual. Only one overhead light burned at the far end, buzzing faintly. She walked toward the office, the sound of her heels echoing strangely. Too many echoes, like someone was a step behind. She turned. Empty corridor. By midnight, she had convinced herself the whisper had been static. She was making coffee when the elevator bell chimed again. It startled her. No one else worked this late. Through the glass partition, she saw the elevator stop at 17. The doors opened. No one stepped out. Still, the motion sensor lights in the corridor flicked on one by one, advancing toward her office like invisible footsteps. The elevator doors closed and descended by themselves. Evelyn stared at the floor numbers on the panel by her desk. Each floor light blinked as it passed downward. 16, 15, 14, until it paused at Monica. Then nothing. She hesitated, grabbed her flashlight, and went to check. She told herself it was only a glitch. But when the elevator arrived again, the doors opened onto an empty shaft. Just cables and darkness beyond the threshold. The car wasn't there, yet she could hear the faint whir of its motor somewhere below. Then, clink, a sound above her. She pointed the flashlight upward. The elevator car was hanging 1 floor above, doors partly open. A shadow stood inside. The light caught only part of it, a silhouette of a woman with her head tilted, hair falling forward as if she were listening. Evelyn's throat tightened. "Hello." The figure didn't move, but the elevator doors above began to close, slowly, silently, as if trying not to disturb something inside. The next second, the car plummeted. Air rushed upward. Her flashlight beam shuddered across the walls, and then the elevator slammed to a stop at the lobby level far below, far too abruptly for any safety system. The building groaned. Daniel's voice crackled on her radio. "Evelyn, you all right?" Power just surged down here. She couldn't answer. She was still staring at the empty shaft where the echo of the impact lingered like a low breath. Morning brought technicians and questions. They said the emergency brakes had engaged for no reason. No damage, no one hurt. But Evelyn couldn't forget what she'd seen. A face, pale and blurred behind the closing doors. That night, Daniel offered to ride up with her. The elevator hummed obediently, the speaker silent this time. "See? No ghosts," he said, half smiling. Evelyn exhaled, tension easing, until they passed the 13th floor. The display should have skipped it. There was no official 13th floor in the building, but the light blinked anyway. Thurnal. And for a fraction of a second, the car jolted as if brushing through something unseen. When the doors opened on 17, a cold draft spilled in. On the metal panel beside the buttons, your handprint had appeared, not oily or dusty, etched, almost burned into the steel. Evelyn told herself she wouldn't ride alone again. Yet 2 nights later, Daniel was late and the stairs were locked. She pressed the elevator button. As she waited, an old woman emerged from the lobby corner. Mrs. Alden, one of the oldest tenants. Her eyes were pale and serious. "You work upstairs, don't you, dear?" "Yes, why?" "Then take the stairs when you can. Some nights the elevator stops between floors." Evelyn frowned. "You mean it breaks down?" Mrs. Alden shook her head. "No, it stops because she asks it to." Before Evelyn could ask who she was, the elevator arrived with a low metallic sigh. Mrs. Alden stepped back, lips pressed thin. "If the lights go out," she whispered, "don't look at the mirror." The doors slid shut. Inside, the elevator seemed smaller tonight, the air heavier. The hum of the motor felt like a pulse under her shoes. Halfway up, the lights flickered out completely. Only the emergency strip glowed red. And in the mirror panel across from her, another shape reflected, standing just behind her left shoulder. Motionless, face hidden by hair, Evelyn didn't turn. She remembered Mrs. Alden's warning. The floor display blinked nonsense. 12, B, 13. Then the whisper came, closer than before, a breath against her ear. "You came back." The elevator stopped. Somewhere in the dark, the reflection lifted its head. The maintenance crew left by dusk. They said everything was normal. No wiring faults, no mechanical errors. No reason the elevator should have lost power the night before. Yet Daniel watched the security monitors long after everyone else went home. On the screen, the feed from Maya's camera E17 glitched every few minutes, thin white lines racing downward like falling cables. Sometimes in those frames, a blur of pale static shaped almost like a woman drifted past the lens. He replayed it, frame by frame. When slowed down, the blur had eyes. At 11 that night, Evelyn returned. The corridors were silent except for the hum of vending machines. Daniel met her at the elevator. "You shouldn't go alone," he said. "It's my shift," she replied softly. "I'll be fine." But he stepped in with her anyway. The doors closed. The mirrors threw back their reflections, two tired night workers under fluorescent light. Halfway up, the elevator jolted. The display froze at 10. Then the light changed, white to dim red, as if the bulb itself bled color. Daniel pressed open. Nothing happened. Pressed alarm. Silence. "We're stuck," he muttered. "I'll radio." The radio screeched before he could finish. Through the static, a woman's voice whispered, "Don't call her." Evelyn's hand tightened around his sleeve. "Did you hear that?" The voice returned, louder now, echoing from somewhere above the ceiling. "Don't call her." Daniel yanked the emergency hatch open. A rush of cold air fell from the shaft. Beyond it, empty cables swayed like cobweb threads. No maintenance crew. No sound of machinery. Only slow rhythmic tapping like a hand sliding along metal. Then, without warning, the elevator moved. Not down. Sideways. Evelyn felt the walls shudder. The floor seemed to tilt, though the car remained level. The numbers flickered wildly. 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 13. "It's looping," Daniel said, staring at the panel. "We're not supposed to have a 13th floor." The doors opened anyway. A long corridor stretched beyond, dimly lit, wallpaper peeling, the air thick with dust. It looked older than the rest of Sterling Heights, like a piece of time forgotten between renovations. They stepped out cautiously. The carpet muffled their footsteps. Every door down the hallway was numbered. 13-1, 13-2, 13-3, and at the far end, an elevator stood open, its interior dark, identical to the one they'd left. Evelyn whispered, "Daniel, if that's ours, what are we standing in?" He walked toward it. The nearer he came, the colder the air grew. His breath began to cloud. Inside that second elevator stood a figure facing the corner. A woman wearing the same uniform Evelyn wore, hair hiding her face. She didn't move until Daniel raised his flashlight. Then she turned, slowly, her reflection catching the beam a moment before her body did. But the reflection smiled first. The lights above flickered. The hallway lights went out one by one, racing toward them. Daniel grabbed Evelyn's hand. "Run!" They dove back into their elevator. It echoes, and the doors slammed shut an instant before darkness swallowed the corridor. The car shuddered again. dropping violently before catching itself a near rate. The lights returned to white. The doors opened on an ordinary hallway, bright and clean as if nothing had happened. Daniel's hands shook as he wiped sweat from his forehead. That floor isn't supposed to exist. Evelyn nodded. But she's there. When they checked the building plans later, floor 13 was listed as a service mezzanine sealed in 1987 after a fatal accident during elevator repairs. The victim's name was Clara Mayfield, maintenance technician. Her cause of death, fall between elevator cars. Mrs. Alden confirmed it the next day. Clara never left, she told them quietly. They say she got trapped between floors, her soul, I mean. Every time the lift stalls, she's trying to finish her route. Evelyn asked, then what does she want? Mrs. Alden's eyes glimmered like old glass. Company. She hates going up alone. That evening, Daniel resolved to confront whatever haunted the elevator. He installed a new camera inside and left a motion detector. If anything moved, it would ping his monitor downstairs. At 2 a.m., the ping sounded. On the screen, the elevator doors opened by themselves. A woman stepped in, Evelyn. Only she was at her desk, visible on another camera feed at the same time. The figure in the elevator looked up toward the camera and grinned. The face glitched, pixels crawling across it, mouth widening too far. The monitor went black. Then the elevator began moving, without anyone touching the controls. Daniel sprinted to the lobby. The car was descending fast. 17, 16, 15. B. When the doors opened, the basement was pitch black except for a single maintenance light. He called out. No answer, only the faint echo of humming, the same tune. Evelyn sometimes whistled while making coffee. The hum drifted closer, and then, very softly, a whisper behind him. Going down. He spun around. Flashlight shaking, the elevator doors had closed. The button for bow glowed red. Inside the tiny gap between the doors, a pale eye stared back at him. The next morning, Evelyn didn't show up for work. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment, just 2 blocks from the Sterling Heights building, was locked from the inside. The police said there was no sign of struggle, but her shoes, purse, and security badge were missing. Only the elevator key card lay on the kitchen counter. Daniel hadn't slept. The whisper from the previous night still clung to his thoughts. Going down. He replayed the footage 100 times, but the last frame always froze at the same image, that single staring eye through the elevator doors. He decided to stay after hours again. He couldn't explain why. Maybe guilt, maybe duty, but more than anything, he needed to know where the elevator went. 9:03 p.m. The building was silent. The security lights cast long yellow beams over the marble floor. He turned off the lobby lamps, so the only glow came from the call button, small and circular, glowing red instead of green tonight. Daniel pressed it. The elevator arrived instantly. The doors opened, and for the first time, he saw his own reflection step in a second before he did. He hesitated, then entered. The panel lights blinked to life. G1, 2, dot. The Mon 13 that wasn't supposed to exist, but there it was, pulsing faintly. He touched it. The doors slid shut. The hum of the machinery deepened into a low vibration, like the heartbeat of something enormous beneath the ground. When the doors opened, the same long corridor waited, the same peeling wallpaper. Only now, the lights flickered to a rhythm. 2 short flashes, 1 long pause, like Morse code. At the end of the hallway, the other elevator stood open again. Humming faintly, Daniel whispered into the empty air. Clara Mayfield, I know who you are. The hum paused. Then faintly a woman's voice answered from everywhere at once. Then you know why I stayed. The walls trembled. The light behind him dimmed. He turned. Every door on that hallway began opening slowly, one by one. From each room came a whisper, dozens of overlapping voices, repeating the same phrase. Going down. Going down. Going down. Daniel stepped backward toward the far elevator, but the carpet beneath his feet grew soft and damp, as if soaked in water. He looked down. Dark footprints appeared ahead of him, leading straight into the waiting car. He followed. Inside, the lights were dim blue. The mirror reflected the hallway behind him, but in the reflection, every door was still open, and someone stood in each doorway. Every figure wore an old maintenance uniform, all with the same torn name patch, C. Mayfield. He turned around. The hallway was empty. Then the elevator doors closed by themselves. The car began to move, down, deeper than any basement level he knew. The numbers changed strangely now. Beyond Bill's Village Barn, Pinch Nuts. A faint glow appeared through the small glass window in the doors. Outside was the elevator shaft, but it didn't look like steel anymore. The walls were made of concrete, cracked and wet. Strange handprints smeared upward toward the unseen ceiling. He whispered, "What do you want from me?" A voice behind him said softly, "To remember." He turned. Clara stood there. Her skin looked faded, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Her eyes were wide, shimmering like old film. The right side of her face was covered in faint streaks of dust and oil, as if she'd never stopped working. "They sealed me in," she said. "Maintenance error. They said I fell, but I was repairing the lift when it moved without command." I screamed. No one came. You've been here since 1987, she finished. "And now your friend has joined me." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Evelyn." The doors opened. Before him lay a vast underground chamber filled with rusted elevator cars, suspended by frayed cables like bodies in cocoons. In one of them, through the cracked glass, he saw Evelyn standing perfectly still, eyes open, face expressionless. "Let her go," he pleaded. "She called me," Clara said simply. She pressed 13. She turned toward him. Her reflection in the mirrored wall smiled again before she did. "Now it's your turn to take the ride." The doors closed, trapping him inside. The building's night guard. An older man named Mr. Griggs Manman arrived for his shift. The lobby was quiet except for the low buzz of fluorescent light. On his desk sat a USB drive labeled "Elevator Logs." Daniel. He checked the security feed. Every camera showed static, except for the one facing the elevator. The car was parked at ground floor. Doors closed. Lights steady. Nothing unusual. He approached it, pressed the button. The doors opened with a soft ding. Inside, empty. Only a maintenance cap lay on the floor, embroidered with the name Daniel. Griggs bent to pick it up, but as he did, the mirror flickered. For a split second, he saw 3 people standing behind him: Daniel, Evelyn, and a third woman in an old uniform. They were smiling. The lights went out. The Sterling Heights building reopened. The elevator worked flawlessly. No one spoke about the missing. Staff, rumors spread that they'd quit without notice. But every night, around 3 a.m., the elevator sometimes stops between floors. The lights dim, and passengers say they feel a hand on their shoulder, cold and firm. If they look into the mirror, they always notice something strange. Their reflection is smiling when they are not. And when the elevator resumes its motion, the floor display sometimes flickers just for a second, showing a number that doesn't exist.